Oh my god, look at what this guy drew for me. This is incredible. I'm gonna go put a link down to his channel in the description. Just check this guy's stuff out. His art is incredible. Hey guys, here's a video that was suggested by a buddy of mine. Here goes. The best kind of horror is usually kept very realistic and raw. After all, what we can relate to can scare us a lot more. When the boundaries of what is realistic start to become non-existent, a lot of the scare factor can also be lost. This is of course not the case with every single piece of storytelling and the like, but it does take some effort to still frighten people after overstepping said boundaries. Overpowered characters usually cross this line by being so almighty and powerful that they just become unrealistic and sometimes even ridiculous. Here are 10 characters that completely disregard the fine line and enter video game boss territory. But not like a good boss, but like an unfair and frustrating boss that takes forever to beat. Of course, not every single character I bring up here is a bad character, nor do they originate from bad stories and the like, but they are a little too powerful. Now to make things clear, I have mentioned pretty much all of these characters in previous videos. I do apologize for that, but finding new and funny characters to talk about in the Creepypasta world can be hard sometimes. So let's count down the top 10 most overpowered Creepypasta characters. Number 10. Ben. So Ben is this little boy who is somehow able to possess electronics and whatnot. Kinda scary, right? But he's like a little boy kid man who is able to change things like video games, websites and all that. I mean, I've heard of young wonder child hackers, but this is really pushing it. Now you might be saying, yo hoods, Ben is a ghost. He's able to do these things because he's a supernatural ghost. Well, you're right. The story does make his behavior and his powers pretty well justified in the grand scheme of things. He's an unstoppable force to be reckoned with, hence why he's kind of overpowered. In my eyes, that's not a negative in this case. He's a ghost. Ghosts do weird stuff. Like this. Ow. Number 9. Laughing Jack. Clowns are usually pretty scary. Not this one though. This one is just ridiculous and gross. Laughing Jack could also be classified as a supernatural being, but while Ben worked very well as one, Laughing Jack does not, in my own humble opinion. The story of Laughing Jack features no subtlety whatsoever and substitutes legitimate horror for gore and gross out. This is why I believe that him being as overpowered as he is serves nothing more than to make him unreal and in turn not scary. I mean, he's able to disappear into a puff of smoke. I thought that was what magicians did, not clowns. Of course, Jack is able to avoid damage no matter what happens, and he's able to kill as he pleases because it's all a fun, goofy, gaffy game to him. He can dodge getting stabbed with a knife. He can even remove the organs of a poor little boy's stomach in a distasteful and offensive description. Yay? I really don't like this story. Number 8. Happy Appy. Happy Appy, the killer clay apple. I can hardly say that without bursting into laughter. Yes, he is a clay apple from a supposed kid show, and he lures children into his creepy van and then murders them. He's an apple. Let me repeat that. He is an apple. How is he able to kill people? How is he able to endure so much damage? How is he able to live on his own? Now you might again be interrupting me like the rude person you are by saying, but Hoods, in an earlier video you said that you like Happy Appy. First of all, that video is like 2 years old by now, and secondly, I've grown older and wiser since then. I've also grown a lot more bitter. I've also recently played through the entire Silent Hill franchise. That is real horror. Happy Appy is ridiculous. The icing on top of the cake is the fact that the story never explains how or why Appy is able to move around and murder children and adults alike, unless I forgot. It's a long freaking story. Do you expect me to memorize all that? Like I said, imagining a clay apple doing all these things is ridiculous. Apples can't even move. See? I just killed one. Easy. Number 7. Sally. So, from what I've gathered, Sally from Play With Me does not in fact kill people. If angry fangirl YouTube comments on my overrated Creepypastas video are to be believed. However, I beg to differ. The story that I read ends with Sally haunting a random person as she utters her obligatory Creepypasta character catchphrase, "Play with me." And then the story ends. Now, by hearing that, what do you assume happened? Do you think the little ghost girl brought out her own very little tea table and the random person in her had a fancy tea break with Mr. Teddy? No! You assume the worst, of course, which is what I did too. Sally is an 8-year-old little girl who dies tragically after being exposed to some terrible situations that I will not even begin to go into detail on because it's handled so poorly, and then becomes a ghost who haunts her old home. Funny how she haunts it when she wasn't even murdered in the home, but presumably in a car miles and miles away. Anyways, this little 8-year-old ghost spooks anyone who enters. She's 8, but is apparently able to summon Satan to help her out. Interesting. Yeah, no. I can stretch my definition of believability in a lot of stories most of the time, but not for this one. Sally, you're too strong. Number 6. Tails Doll. Look at this nice little plushie. Ain't he cute? He couldn't hurt a fly. Could he? Wrong! This plushie is actually a cold-blooded, uncontainable butcher! Run away, or he'll get you too! His eyes tell a tale of unspeakable apprehension and trepidation. His smile, it never fades. It never fades! Not even when his weapon of choice sinks into your flesh and leaves you unable to escape. Not even when he removes your eyeballs and feeds it to your father. You're doomed, I tell you. Doomed! See how terrifying that is? I mean, see how ludicrous that is? Here, let me debunk Tails Doll for you right here, right now. Whoa! Let's settle this dispute here, once and for all. You cannot make Sonic the Hedgehog scary. Not when this exists. And this. And this. But oh, according to these Tails Doll stories, Tails Doll floats around and possesses such weapons as chainsaws and katanas, and is summoned by you fulfilling certain qualities in the classic and fan-loved racing game, Sonic R. According to the grim urban legend, the Tails Doll will emerge from your television screen and murderify you gruesomely. I wonder what they'll write on your tombstone. Random sexy viewer killed by evil plushie. What a sad way to go. Number 5. Sonic.exe. Well, would ya look at that, another Sonic character, the bloodthirsty fiend himself, Sonic.exe, or X, as he's known as in the and the sequel. X is an interdimensional being who has been around longer than before any of you were born. Yes, even before you, Steve. I know who you are. According to the sequel, X cannot enter our world. Instead, he produces a window into his own dimension by sending out a mysterious game CD, for computers that's very important, that people then play. As they do, X places people who are already trapped in his world into the game, and he torments them in the game as well as in real life. He then pulls people into his hellish world for eternal damnation. And he assumes the form of Sonic the Hedgehog with black bleeding eyes. That is the most incredible thing I have ever heard! Sonic's gonna get you, kids. Don't let him get his filthy white gloves on ya. He'll assault you with frightening gameplay bugs, so you better watch out. Number 4. Clockwork. Here goes nothing, boys. Natalie, Clockwork, Olette, whatever, is a young, developing 16-year-old girl who wanted nothing more than to be loved and accepted. But she got neither of those things. So, after being traumatized and ostracized, she can take it no more. She snaps and becomes a psychotic serial killer. Because as we all know, people who suffer mental illnesses always become murderers. That's the facts. So, she becomes locked up in a mental asylum, but is magically strong enough to break the bonds that keep her contained due to some unspecified mental drugs. And she overpowers her doctor, dodges the bullets of the security guards, kills them, and escapes, only to murder her family afterwards. Nothing unrealistic here, no. You know, I'm still on a huge Silent Hill craze at the moment, so let's for a moment closely examine the characters of Natalie and a certain character from Silent Hill. People have sometimes asked me if I believe there are stories that can handle heavy subjects flawlessly, like a lot of creepypastas fail to do. Well, dear viewers, look no further than to Silent Hill 2. Natalie shares some uncanny resemblances to Angela Orozco, doesn't she? Both characters are young women who tragically suffer both physical, mental, and sexual abuse multiple times throughout their lives. They are both emotionally disturbed because of this, and both have an inner darkness inside. They also both take revenge on their families for what they did to them. One of them portrays this inner struggle absolutely perfectly with utmost care, perfect storytelling, and subtle symbolism, and one fails on every single level possible. I'll let you decide which one is which. Man, I got sidetracked. I just really love Silent Hill, damn it. Number 3. Slender Man. How many times am I gonna talk about Slender Man, goddamn? Yep, Slendy was the first character I considered for this list. Even when I first found out about Slender Man all those years ago, I researched facts about him and found more than I bargained for. When you start explaining Slender Man, and you list his abilities and how he usually acts and so on, so much of the scare factor disappears. I certainly remember reading a list of his abilities, and all I could think was, man, this guy is obscenely overpowered. Slender Man has tentacles protruding from his back. He can extend his arms to inhuman lengths. He can manipulate space and time, electronics, and much more. He has apparently been around since the dawn of man. He can't be damaged and can't be killed. He can teleport left and right and drive anyone insane and turn them into his own manservants. Good lord, is there anything he can't do? They should start calling him the Amazing Slender Man or something. Do you need more evidence? This tall, skinny-ass white boy is overpowered as all hell. Oh, and look! There's gonna be a mainstream Slender Man movie made apparently. Just like with Five Nights at Freddy's. Go figure. Look, can we just all take a moment and mourn the fact that Slender Man isn't scary anymore? He used to be this elusive figure, this unknown entity, this unexplained phenomenon. Then, popular culture got a hold of him and turned him into this. Now there's a Hollywood-style movie coming out about him. And apparently an episode or two of American Horror Story based on him. I mean, it was bound to happen, but when you oversaturate an audience so much, a lot of the novelty of the character dies. I need to get this out of my system, alright? Look at, for example, I don't know, Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. In Silent Hill 2, he had a clear, concise reason for being in the game. But because his appearance in that game left such an everlasting impact on gamers all over the world, the good old Americans decided to put him in everything because he's so loved and recognizable, even when he has no reason to be there. This has utterly, completely destroyed him. Or better yet, look at Darth Vader from Star Wars. He used to be this menacing force to be reckoned with. Red Letter Media put it best. In the original trilogy, Darth Vader was just a weird guy in a suit. He was not Space Jesus. Then the prequels came along, and in there, everyone hails Anakin Skywalker as the Messiah. Not because he was important to the Star Wars universe, but because he was important to us. This ties back perfectly to Slender Man. He used to be scary, and then he became a pop culture icon, and now he's being hailed as the next Messiah. Not because he's important to horror or horror storytelling or anything in general, but because he is important to us. Mic drop. Number 2. Jeff the Killer. Obvious choice is obvious. While Clockwork did have some explanation for how she was able to plow through dozens of trained armed security guards and brothers armed with baseball bats because of, mental drugs, old Jeffy boy right here has no reason whatsoever for being so laughably powerful. I don't care that the new and improved story gave him a reason for being so good at fighting, by the way. It's just a blatant attempt at trying to fill in plot holes left in by the original, flawed story. Jeff is unstoppable. No one can touch him. Not his parents, not crazy women who hate him, not trained police officers, not even Slender Man himself can take him down. I mean, why can't Slendy just pick Jeff up with his tentacles and snap his neck? Story would have been over in an instant. Also, while we're on the subject of Jeff the Killer spin-offs, why can't trained police officers manage to land a single hit on him? But once Jane the Killer shows up at the scene, she's able to put up a good fight against him. Why do people root for this insane, unlikable and obnoxious clown again? Who do you think you are, Jeff? You think you're cool? You're not cool. You're not the coolest guy on the planet. You're not Guy Seehee. You're not Peter Dinklage. You're not James Arnold Taylor. You're not, I don't know, Brad Dourif. This 13-year-old boy is most likely Satan's son incarnated. That would make things so much more awesome in my eyes. That would be an excuse. Let's just move on to number 1. Number 1. Welcome to Ichiban. Numero uno. Nummer ett. The one who will end the world. The one who can corrupt all who stand in his way. The one, the only, Zalgo. He comes. So Zalgo is like this creepy godlike creature who is able to let his darkness seep into anything he touches. It is also said that he can, and one day will, bring about the end of reality as we know it. The creature is an eyeless monster with 7 mouths, and 6 of those mouths speak in different tongue. The 7th and final mouth will only speak when the time is right, and when the song that ends the earth needs to be sung. Now that, my dear friends, is completely badass. But you know, that's a lot of power. You might even call it overpowered. Yep, overpowered. Zalgo, my man, you're awesome, but you've got too much power. Don't abuse it, alright? We're counting on ya. Please, don't destroy Earth. Well, Those were 10 pretty overpowered creepypasta characters, weren't they? I got a little sidetracked a few times, yeah, but what can you do, eh? Hope you all enjoyed the video. It was fun, wasn't it? Thanks for watching till the end, and I hope to see ya in the future. Oh, and thanks to each and every one of you for 125,000 subscribers. That is such a huge amount, and I cannot thank you all enough for getting me this far. I wouldn't be here today without you. So thank you. Stay awesome, everyone. Goodbye. This is the greatest blog ever.
You like tomato?
And you like tomato?